Hi everybody and welcome to today's webinar. We're really excited today to be hearing from my colleague Adrian about running a learning event at work. I'll be handing over to him shortly, but before we start, I just want to remind everybody or tell you if this is your first webinar about the ways you can take part. So underneath the screen, there's an Ask a Question button. Please post any questions you've got for Adrian there and we will keep some time at the end of the webinar for answering those. We've also got a chat panel on the right hand side of the screen where you can send chat messages to us and chat to each other. And we think it would be really great as well if you shared any ideas about learning events you could have at work in the chat panel. Hopefully you can inspire each other and inspire us. So over to Adrian, and please can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Adrian Ryan and I'm a Project Support Officer for Unionlearn. I started at the TUC in 2005 and prior to that I was a Union Learning rep for PCS at Inland Revenue and HMRC, became a HMRC. Since I've been at the TUC, I've carried out a number of roles. One of them was I was responsible for the South East Learning at Work Day Fund many years ago. And that was a fantastic fund that allowed workplaces to bid in for funding. And in one particular year, we had over 70 workplaces take part with fun activities and over 7,000 people took part across the South East, which was a really phenomenal effort from everyone. As I say, there have been some really interesting events. And one of the ones that stands out was a day in Southampton during Adult Learners Week. And that was, first of all, in the morning, I attended a talk from the local museum around the links between the Titanic and Southampton. In the afternoon, I went to another workplace where there was a talk on beekeeping and the room was absolutely packed with people. We couldn't get any more people in the room to listen to the talk. And then we had a bagpipe taster session, which I think that's where it started to go wrong for me. I never took up bagpipes after that.
But perhaps the question is, did you take up beekeeping?
No.
Okay, maybe we can come back to some of the learning events you've been to next. So straight away, first question. So what factors help someone decide the type of learning event to organise?
Yeah, there may be many reasons why you'd hold a learning event. It could be because people have actually expressed an interest in an event. A number of people have actually asked for something. It may be that there's a workplace change. There could be a change in technology. There could be restructuring. There may be opportunities then to actually help people gain new skills to progress in the workplace, or people may just want to actually progress outside the workplace and move on. If there was a redundancy situation, it's a great opportunity to actually get people skills. Although it's not a very good position to be in, but you will actually be able to help people to progress and either move on within the organisation or another organisation nearby.
So how would someone find out what people want?
The best way to do that, I think, is to actually put a survey out, a very simple survey, and that can go put it in a rest area or if you've got a learning centre, fine, put it around there. Talk to people, ask people. The ULR role really is about helping and talking to people. So find out what people want, because if you research what people want, you're more likely to get a good attendance. If you put something on that people aren't interested in, you'll find attendance might not be so good and you may be disappointed. Again, what you need to look at something that will attract learners. So some fun events, links fun. Ask someone if they want to do an English course. It's unlikely. First of all, they'll say yes. Mm-hmm. So if you actually then say we'd like to do creative writing or poetry, then that's fine. That they're going to get better interest. And maths, budgeting might be a more interesting thing than actually a maths course.
These all sound really helpful ways on the first step to organising a learning event. But if you're a new ULR, you might not feel confident about taking this first step. So is there any support that a new ULR can get or anyone they can ask to help?
Yeah, many of the unions have a Union Learning Fund project. And that is funding that comes through Department for Education, comes into Union Learn, and unions bid in for that, and then that tends to provide staffing, so project workers. So have a look and see, if you've got a Union Learning Fund project. If you're not sure, ask us. We can help you. We can guide you to that person. The other thing as well is if you've got any other ULRs in your workplace, and if you haven't got any other ULRs in your workplace, is there a workplace, another another branch of your company or your employer nearby? Have they got a union learning rep? If they have, get them on board, share ideas, work together, work as part of the team. There might be other union learning reps in your branch. There could also be learning committees set up from your union as well. Try and find out, what is available to support in your workplace, because the more people, the less the workload for you, and you'll also be able to, bounce ideas off each other. Failing that, have a chat with one of our staff, and what we can actually do is see if we can support you as well, or signpost you to the right people in your union.
Sure. What about with other types of rep? What about maybe doing a partnership with a health and safety rep on a joint subject?
Yeah, if you're looking at health and wellbeing, which is a very hot topic at the moment, and it can be around mental health issues. It could be around a whole range of different aspects of that are also covered by health and safety reps. Then have a chat with them, because they also will be dealing with management, and it might be easy for them to get management on board if it's a health and safety issue than you going direct to the management.
That's a great tip, and it's worth saying that Adrian mentioned about contacting people here at the TUC who might be able to help you, or within your union. We will make sure that there are links and contact details for the people that you need in the notes from this webinar that we'll post up at the end. So don't worry, we'll make sure we share those. Okay, so once the ULR has identified help and identified the subject, what should they do? What should they do next?
One of the other key areas is the space where you're going to organise the event. If you've got a learning room, a learning centre, or a training room within your organisation, that would be ideal. One of the things that you just be a little bit careful about is if you think about using a canteen or a rest area, there are other people who use that during the day who may not necessarily be interested in attending the event. And what you don't want to do is upset people in the workplace and put them off what you're trying to achieve through the learning. And so just have a think about what venues are available. And really, to get learning started, one of the really quick ways is actually to look at something like a book swap. If there's a spare bookshelf in your workplace, get some books, ask people to donate books. People read, donate a book, and then they can actually swap and share the books around. Also, you could speak to the local library, see any decommissioned books. You could ask them to see if they could provide some. And the next step really is to find out what type of event you want to do. And you shouldn't feel, because it's a Learn at Work Day event, it's got to be a massive event. It can be something very simple and very small. It could be a short lunchtime learning session, or you could, if you want to look at something else, you could also look at getting local providers in, getting local organisations in, and actually running like a learning fair in a rest area, and have that through the day. So people just call in, speak to someone, find out what courses they've got, find out what learning is available for them, and that could run through the day. And that type of events is really successful.
Okay, that's all really helpful. But just say you've got everything organised and you've got some great ideas. How would a ULR get permission to run the event, and not just permission, but get support from management? Yeah,
so that's another key area. I mean, what you want to be doing is when you're planning the event as well, is actually have an action plan. So who's responsible for what, when, and how? So that will actually start you focusing in on making sure that you've got everything in place. And what you can then do is share that with the management and speak to the management. I think it's key to get management support up from the start, because ideally what you want them to do is give people release time, or at least provide the facilities for you to actually hold the event. And you really do want them on board. Again, a good area to look at for that is health and wellbeing. You're more likely to get management on board with a health and wellbeing event because it's in their interest as well, especially if you're promoting healthier eating or more fitness and generally things that are going to improve people's health and wellbeing. Mental health issues are a massive area at the moment as well. And we'll come on later to some of the things that you can promote around mental health with some of the resources that we'll mention.
So, who would a ULR be able to get to help provide the learning on the event, if learning needed to be delivered, for example, or to give out information at the event? What if they aren't qualified to actually talk about that themselves?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally we've always looked at providers, and when we talk about providers, we talk about colleges, and that's great. Many years ago, colleges would come in and run loads of different sessions for you, but it's not with changes to funding. It's not as easy for them to do that. So there's key areas. Contact the local colleges. I think the first thing you should do really, though, is research what learning is around your area. Have a look and see what providers, what learning is taking place. And when we say providers, we don't just mean the colleges. There are a number of smaller private providers who offer specific courses. There may have been some funding locally put into an area that they can actually tap into. And look into the community as well. Community spaces, community centres. Some areas have community learning centres, and there'll be a whole range of courses that are available there. And again, one area I mentioned the library very briefly earlier, but libraries are a fantastic resource. They often run IT courses. They often run local family history courses, and some libraries in some areas actually give you access to some of the family history sites that you have to pay for. That while you're in the library, you can actually do the research. So where cost is a barrier to people, that might be something that they can actually go to the local library, see if that's available to them. If it is, you've given someone opportunity to actually learn something new. Charities as well, local charities, and also some of the major charities. If you take the British Heart Foundation, for example, they provide loads of leaflets, and there's loads of leaflets around cholesterol, blood pressure, and that information you can get off their websites, or you can go into the local charity shops and pick up a bundle of that to display in your workplace. And there may well be, you may well find there's local funding pots of money around as well. There are a load of free online learning courses as well people can sign up to, and also at unionlearn we offer lots of different learning opportunities through our website, which again we'll come onto that a little bit later. But have a look at the libraries and community learning centres. The other area might be another union might have a public access learning centre nearby. We have a directory of learning centres on our website as well, so you can actually have a look there, or again ask us, and if we've got someone from our team who knows the area, then we'll give you some advice about that as well.
Well, that's fantastic. But the thing is, a lot of these things might cost money, and we might be on a limited budget. So how would the ULR go about getting free activities or free services?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's loads of free resources, and I've mentioned some of the free online learning websites, and we'll touch on some of them later. But I've attended many sessions where events have been run by people in the workplace, people with a particular talent in the workplace. One that springs to mind that I attended was someone who spoke Spanish and done a half-hour holiday Spanish taster session during lunchtime. And they also brought some Spanish food in as well, so I made it a little bit of a social event, and that worked really well. People really engaged with that. I think they even all contributed towards the lunch, put a couple of pounds in each towards the lunch. So it made a really sort of fun event. And you'll be surprised how many people have got a different skill and talent in your workplace. So I attended a recent event recently, and one of the areas within the event, there's lots of activity going on. One of the rooms had a room of stands for people who've got hobbies. So they would just do voluntary work, explain what the organisation does, or what, so two of the examples there was detectorists, I think that's the right term, who go out with the metal detector and they had their fines table with all the coins, and it got a lot of interest from people. And next to them was a battle reenactment group, someone who's a member of that, and they had different pictures. And again, it just makes for a fun day. And what that shows is there's people with different interests in the workplace. But it also it opens people's eyes to what people in the workplace are like. They get to know some of their colleagues a little bit better, and they can also, and if they're interested in one of them hobbies but have never thought about taking it up, they've got someone they can actually speak to and start off with. You're then looking at charities, as we mentioned earlier, also local organisations like local history societies. Quite often they'll come in, they'll have people who come in and talk about the local history, and then I remember one area I was in Crawley in Sussex, and a local church ran informal ESOL classes because of the large migrant workforce around the area. So Again, that was free and it was informal. And you'd be surprised when you actually look out there how many different organisations are out there actually run courses, and even housing associations as part of their corporate social responsibility. Many of them have funding for different courses, and one particular scheme I remember was where they were teaching people about solar panels, and they had a house that was converted into more or less a workshop, and that again, you would never, unless you looked and found out about it, you'd never know that sort of thing was out there. So just look a bit wider than just the traditional college. Look and see what else is out there that's available for you.
Yeah, amazing. I can see in the chat that we've got lots of people sharing ideas of learning events. It would be really great as well if you could share examples of things that you've done, or as well as ideas. So maybe some of the things that Adrian's been talking about, where you've utilised the talents of some of your colleagues, or you've contacted a local library or history society, and that would be really great, because any sharing of ideas is helpful. So how would a ULR go about promoting the event to get a really good attendance after all the hard work of organising it?
Yeah, I think one of the quick ways to do it is actually put together a poster or a flyer and leave them around the workplace, and posters on notice boards. The description of what activities that are actually taking place. If you're able to, and this is where you need to speak to your management, get management on board, is to send a global email with details of the event and what's taking place, and look and see if there's any if your union has newsletters, local newsletters, or if the organisation has a local newsletter. Have a look and see if you can get something in there. The problem with notice boards is people tend to walk past them and look at them, unless they're kept up to date. It's more or less just part of the furniture. So one of the interesting ways I've seen an event advertised is someone just put a picture on the notice board of a question mark, left it for a few days.
Mysterious.
Everyone sees that and thinks, what's that? So the next time they put question mark with coming soon. Again, it's keeping people thinking what's happening. Then question mark, want to learn something new. And people, again, people are going to see that. And then the last step is to put a poster of what you're actually doing on there. And that's just a way of getting around that, people just walking past the notice board and not paying any attention to that. It worked very well, and it was a very successful event. Word of mouth is the best way of actually getting attendance. Talk to people. Talk to your colleagues, ask people if you go and make a cup of tea, or are you coming to the creative writing session? If it's a specific session with a limited number, you need to ask people in advance if they're actually attending, and state that there is a limited number of spaces. What you don't want is to have people disappointed where they can't fit in a room, and almost like the beekeeping. But you really need to, and that's all part of your project plan, your action plan for the actual event itself. And I think if there's any information screens around your building, it's quite often employers have information screens as people walk into reception. Perhaps get it put on there. If you're able to, and also mention that team meetings. Again, if you've got management on the side, you can ask the managers to cascade the information down to staff. I think the thing about attendance is, you may organise this great event, might be a fantastic event, and for whatever reason the numbers aren't quite as high as you think you really wanted them to be. Don't be disillusioned, don't be disappointed. The fact you've got people in the room, the fact you've actually reached some people, means next time when you put something on, word of mouth, it's a good event, people will actually spread that word of mouth again, and you'll get more people. Some learning centres, some workplaces take a long time to actually get established. Some there might be one catalyst. As we said earlier, it might be a workplace change. It might just be something really interesting that you've put on that's really piqued someone's interest. So just have a think about what you're putting on. And hopefully if you've done your research and you've asked people, what you're putting on is what people will attend. But it's the best way to say is word of mouth. Just talk to people, engage with people, and get your colleagues. If there's someone in another area, another department, get them to ask and mention it to their colleagues as well.
So if a ULR has done all the things you've talked about and they've had a lovely successful learning event, how can they use that successful event to plan for the future?
Yeah, I think the best way to actually plan for the future is to actually evaluate what you've done from the event. So you would need to create a feedback form. It doesn't have to be a massive form. It's just, was this event good? Did you enjoy it? But always put a space on there for people to tell you what they want to see in the future. And even if they put something like scuba diving, I've seen that on evaluation forms before. You know, that's something that someone may genuinely be interested in. It might be someone just trying to be a bit, you know, having a bit of fun. But
perhaps that they could then be inspired to go and try that by themselves once they've got the taste for learning. Yeah,
you're not going to be able to provide everything that everyone wants. So it's a bit about managing expectations, and that again is crucial. What you will need is a sign-in sheet for the event and an evaluation form. They're the two key bits of paperwork that you need. And what the evaluation form will help you get there, help you improve. I always remember one bit of evaluation from an event at Congress House I organised. There was a large conference, lots of people moving around the building, and someone suggested that we should increase the number of lifts in the building. Now, you're not going to be able to do that. So just be aware that people will put things on the evaluation form that, you know, are not possible. But you will also get you'll also get a lot of good ideas of things that you can put on in the future. And it gives you another opportunity to survey attendees. Have you actually surveyed people and find out what they wanted? This is your second opportunity to find out what they want next. So it's a really key piece of work to get to keep, you know, going forward. And again, just persistence. Just keep going. And don't be frightened by lower numbers than you expected. That's a real new ULRs come out of a course, go into the workplace. I'm going to organise an event. I'm going to get a really good event going. And they can be disappointed if it doesn't go as well as expected. More experienced ULRs will tell you that some events work really well and some don't. And it's as you go through, your experience will tell you what people want and what people will attend.
So it's important to always bear in mind that sometimes it takes people to warm up to the idea of learning. A few tries might get you there.
Absolutely, and you will see people who will turn up to everything you put on, and hopefully what they'll do is talk to their colleagues who didn't come and say, yeah, you really need to come to this. This was really good. And quite often when we put a piece of learning on, I've done some creative writing workshops for some of our unions, and it's just a very quick hour-long session that's good fun. And as soon as we've done it, there's people going back to the desk, and the ULRs are now saying, can you do some more? Can you do a mock-up? Can you? And that's what tends to happen with workplace learning. So again, it's persistence, and just, you know, you if you've got it planned well, you can only try your best. People turning up is not always in your gift.
Absolutely. But just say we do have a successful event. What can a ULR do to show others that this was successful, and hopefully to encourage more people to come to the next event?
Yeah, I think and we mentioned earlier about the Union Learning Fund project workers. If you've got a Union Learning Fund project worker, one of the key areas of the Union Learning Fund is we want to share best practice. We want to have news stories, case studies, blogs. And if you look at the Union Learn website, you'll see loads of different news stories, blogs, case studies around events that have taken place. They may also give you some ideas for something you can put on your workplace. But that's how to share the message. If it's about getting management on board and you've got a workplace publication or union publication, get a quote from the manager. Engage with the manager and get the manager to say it was an excellent event and really good for the workforce, and we were really pleased to take part, because that, again, it may give their egos a bit of a boost, but also what it's shown that you're working in partnership, and it'll make it easier for you to get things in the future. And it will also mean other areas of your employer, if it's another site, will find it easy if they've got a manager from the same organisation saying this was really good. So any reluctant managers may be more likely to actually get involved with other areas of your workplace and other parts of your employer. And I think union journals, newsletters. We, as I said, mentioned the Union Learn website. We have loads of news stories, case studies, so we're always interested in them. And also social media. Use social media. If social media is something that you use, why not? Put a reference. You just need to be careful sometimes if you include photos that the people who are in the photos are comfortable with photos being taken of and used for stories, because the last thing you want to do again is upset anyone who's attended your event. And there's also issues around the gender data protection regulations as well, which you need to talk to your project worker about if you've got one, or your organisation, around whatever data you collect. I mean, that's a whole other area that needs some more help on. But just really try and make a story of it. And another thing you can do is, if you've got a course running or an event running, you can create a certificate of participation for some of the attendees, and you can actually have a little presentation ceremony at the end of the event or at the start of your next event, and that's normally pretty good. I remember one workplace where it was a waste depot, and it was a very male-dominated workplace, but quite they had a celebration event, and some of the people who'd done the functional skills course actually read out some of the work they'd done, some of the poems, and to see all these normally noisy refuse workers standing there almost in tears watching a 60-year-old man read something out in public for the first time. I mean, that was really rewarding for not just the ULR, but for the tutors who attended as well. And in the workplace, and the effect that had was it increased the number of people sign up to the next course.
It's incredible. It's really powerful. But what if some of the local learning providers, be they colleges or charities or community learning centres, are struggling to meet the requests they get to provide learning? Are there any other opportunities that ULRs can investigate?
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier about raising people's expectations. If someone asks for a course, they're not always going to be free. They're not always going to be readily available from a provider locally, and there may be a cost, and in some cases it may be quite a high cost. So it's about managing the people's expectation. If you've mapped the area to see what's available, you will be able to meet quite a few of them expectations, especially if they're more mainstream courses. But there's also loads of free online learning. One of our partner organisations, the Open University, has two sites, OpenLearn and FutureLearn. Now, FutureLearn is a really good site that is high-level learning, but they're all courses that are open to anyone. The majority of them are free, and you work in your own time, between sort of like 2 and 4 hours a week, between 4 and 6 weeks. And they have live chat, and you read a lot of information. And when that first came out, I signed up to one of the first courses there, which was an introduction to forensic science, just because it was the most interesting looking one. And it was a really good course that was based on a real crime. So you got to work through DNA, my favourite bit, and blood splatter analysis. And that type of course is free, and people didn't realise that was available. And if you look at OpenLearn, again, loads of Open University courses that you can actually access the course without the qualification, and more importantly, without the fee. So there's lots of learning there. There's also OpenLearn also has functional skills. And one of my favourite courses, which I always refer when we ever do a creative writing course, there's a Start Writing Fiction course on both OpenLearn and FutureLearn. And that one you can just sign up at any time. And that course, if you were to do the full qualification, would have set you back quite a considerable sum, but the course is there and it's free for you to actually use and get on there. There's other courses as well. There's other providers as well, but UnionLearn on our website and on the Trade Union Education website, we have loads of different resources. So if you take the UnionLearn website, we've got a career zone, which is it's a one-stop shop for careers advice. So it gives you loads of information. We've also got Skill Check, which is our assessment tool, and that's English, Maths, and IT to see what level you're at. So if you're thinking about asking a provider to come in and organise an English, Maths, or IT course, you could actually get people who are interested in the course to check their level before, so you can go to the provider with more information about what level people are actually at, and that actually will make it easier when the provider comes in. We also have along functional skills, we have ranks, which is are there functional skills revision drills around GCSEs and functional skills. There's one on GDPR as well. As mentioned earlier, if you want to find out more about that, you can sign up to that drill. And what they are daily drills that that give you information, test your knowledge of a particular subject. And you can, all these links are on our website. We also have supporting learners, which is a large area of work that we undertake. And that includes the climbing frame, which is a great area for it's got loads of resources in there. But also, you can store learners' learning journey details of what courses they take and what they want to do next. And then trade union education. I don't know if you wanted to touch on what's available.
Please also visit the TUC Education website. Again, we'll provide links to everything Adrian has just talked about and the things I've mentioned. We'll put them in the webinar notes following this, and also in the chat. But the TUC Education website has over 35 free to use online courses and short training modules on workplace issues, be they reading and writing or issues that you might have to deal with as a rep. We've got something on mental health in the workplace. We've got something about menopause support in the workplace. We've got various health and safety modules, and we have full-on training courses for union reps. So please do check that out as well. And I can definitely agree with Adrian when he says that the Future Learn courses are really good. I've done a couple as well. I've not done the forensics ones, but maybe it sounds like a good one to check out. Okay, it's been great to see that while we've been doing the webinar, we've had lots of questions come in. So I'm just going to take a look at some of them now, and we'll see how many we can get through with Adrian. So we've got a question from Sarah. How can we encourage staff to attend drop-in sessions that aren't in paid working time?
I think again, it comes back to research. It comes back to, if you're putting drop-in sessions on that aren't in paid time, it's got to be something that they're interested in, and something that they can. And I think again, what you're looking at is if it's a taster, you want something you can refer them to afterwards. So, like we've said with Future Learn, if you were doing a creative writing taster, what we do is we run the session and then we say, right, if you're now interested in doing further learning, you can go to this website, you can do this course for free. It's a lot of workplaces have lunchtime learning sessions. The one I attended one last week in Liverpool, so we run a creative writing session while I was in Liverpool, and that was a fantastic event. And that was people came to the lunch hour. One of the things that it was a union event, so they did provide a lunch. So that is one way of doing it, but again, that costs money. So you need to really see if there's a possibility there. One of the things that I did see before was they had a cultural event, and people from different cultures and brought some food from their own culture in, and they all shared it and had a lunch, and they'd done the learning session. So it might be worth thinking of something like that.
Another question we've had from Sash saying, is there any facility to provide an attendance certificate and have that recognised for someone's CPD?
It's difficult because it depends on what the particular piece of learning is. If for example it was one of the open learn courses, you can print off a certificate of participation. If it's something that you're doing that's informal, it depends on what particular subject it's on and how that fits in with your employer, and if your employer's engaged with that. It's a difficult area. Participation normally you can put it on a CV if you've done a course, even if it's been informal online. You can still put that you've got the skills. If for example, another website I just touch on, if you wanted to do an Excel course on Allison.com, you can do loads of free IT courses. So you could gain the skills, so you could demonstrate them skills in. So if you were at an interview and you had to sit a test, then you could demonstrate them skills at that test because you'd have done the course. But CPD is such a broad area. It's very difficult to go down to an individual.
Depends on the subject.
Yeah, it depends on the subject, depends on the employer, depends on how long that is as well.
Sure. So would a bite-sized learning session, for example, 20 minutes, are they successful? And is it worth trying to get people interested in those? And that question is from Maria.
Yes, absolutely. What you tend to find is people will have, if you certainly don't for lunchtime, people will have a limited amount of time they can actually come to whatever you put on. So if you're doing short 20-minute taster sessions, and it can be on any subject. What you'll find is you're more likely to get people to attend that than if you said, right, we've got an hour session, because not everyone takes an hour for lunch, and also if they need time to have their lunch, they may have other issues that they need to deal with. They might have care responsibilities, which they have a shorter lunch. So I think they are really good. For getting started, small is good, because that it also means that the time you're taking to organise them it's going to take less time.
Sure. It's worth mentioning as well that the TUC Education website that we talked about earlier has several dozen short 20-minute online e-learning packages about workplace issues, so do check those out as well. So do you have any ideas for getting subsidised costs if it's a study day with an outside speaker? Who can we approach to help cut the cost for the attendees? And that's from Liz.
Yeah, I would if you have a Union Learning Fund project, so you're in a union that has a Union Learning Fund project, there may well be some funding attached to the projects. Many of the projects do have funding for dissemination, and that's a conversation you need to have with your project worker. Ultimately, unless your union may have some funding as well through the local branch, so there might well be some money for an event there. And if you can tie it into the workplace, and it may be that you can get some funding from your employer and a contribution from your employer. But if there is a cost, normally that's where it starts getting a bit tricky, because someone's got to pay. But certainly try your union, try your Union Learning Fund project, try your employer. And it may also be worth looking at people who are local to your workplace, who've got a good story. You may be able to encourage them to put something back. I know I've done events with various authors who've come in. One of the learning centres I support at Brighton Council, they've had numerous stars and famous people come in and visit in their own time and give us inspiring talk about what they've done. So you've had the likes of Peter James, the author, Louis de Bernier, another author, and they've come in and spoken to people, and that might be another way of actually of getting some people in to speak without there actually being a cost.
Sure. So Paul's posted a question asking, are there specific working environments where workplace learning is more successful and is suited to than others?
It depends what facilities you've got in the workplace. There are a large number of union learning centres in sites, in the ones attached to prisons, there's ones attached to bus garages, there's ones attached to distribution centres. So, for example, if you've got a distribution centre with a lot of shift patterns, or a bus garage with lots of shift patterns, having a learning centre that people can drop into is ideal. If you haven't got a learning centre, it becomes a little bit harder. So you need to then find a space to be able to run any learning. So if there's a training room, you may just need to try and put that room out and ask if you can put some information in there around what the offer is and what people can do. But there's no specific. It works better in an office than it does in a bus garage, because it depends what you're putting on, and it also depends what interest you've got. You could probably find a bus garage might have 20 people coming along to an event, and an office has got 10.
So no workplace should consider that they can't run learning events. It all depends on the practicalities. Yeah,
and that's part of your plan, part of your action plan. And when you look at it, look at what facilities you've got to be able to do that.
Okay, great. We've had another question from Deborah. Deborah asks, this is, in the past, I've run 2 learning events that have been financed by the union. I'd only invited members to the sessions. Should I invite non-members or managers too? I know the members might get annoyed that their fees are being used by non-members or managers for furthering their knowledge.
My answer, really, I think learning should be open to everyone. I really believe that if you look at workplace learning, it should be open to everyone. And what you could do is use the learning event to encourage people to become a member of the union. It's another benefit. So you might, you can say, look, this is put on by the union, and it depends as well. If you've got a restricted numbers, then perhaps it may well be that you you open it up to union members first and open it up to non-members after. I wouldn't restrict managers, because ultimately you want them to support your events in the future, and you want them. And if you've got good managers there seeing what you're doing as valuable, you're more likely to be able to organise more and get more take up, and you can get them to help actually spread the message, like we said earlier, around telling people what's on at team meetings and cascading that information down. So I would be mindful that, you know, open it to everyone, but there are some restrictions. Your union may have a slightly different take on that. That's for a conversation with your union, to be honest. But my personal opinion is open it to everyone, so
learning
everyone
is for
gets
all.
Yeah, learning is for all.
Okay, we've answered all the questions there, but I think we've had a really fantastic, helpful webinar full of great information. Like I've said throughout, we will post links to all the resources that Adrian and I have mentioned. A lot of them are already in the chat, but we'll post them on the information page about the webinar too. It's also worth pointing out a webinar we had a few months ago where we interviewed a union learning rep, Ivor Riddell, who talked about examples of most of the things that Adrian has mentioned here. He talked about, and I recognise some of his examples you've referenced, where he's actually organised these in his workplace. So we'll also post a link to his webinar, because that's a great inspirational watch too. So just before we go, it's just worth telling you to remind you that we run these webinars regularly, and we have one next week. It's next week. We've got a webinar about how to use social media effectively, specifically Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be joined by a couple of our colleagues from the TUC's communications department. So do tune in. The details should be on the screen now. But other than that, thank you, Adrian. It's been great, and we'll see you again.